I'm Sarah Shira, also known as Imagine Landscapes, and this week I want to talk about some of the things I've been knitting recently. I'm a pretty obsessive knitter, like most of us who get really into this. It just seems to be something that fills so many needs so deep inside, so I talk about some of the projects that have been filling those needs. So the first thing I want to talk about is Sockhead Hat. I took a really long time to get on the Sockhead train, but this is my second now. I knit the first one as written, and then I noticed that HeyBrownBerry, Mars, who also has a really great YouTube podcast. You should check her out. I will have links to everything in the show notes, don't worry about that. So what she did is she knit a double brim, and I think she followed the Knitting Expats ideas. So Sockhead is a sock weight hat, and the idea behind it is it's got lots of slouch and a really big brim, and what she had done is she knit the brim ribbing twice as deep, and then you do a provisional, well, I didn't do a provisional, but you knit the brim together here, so it folds over and gets double thick. So if you imagine that this is my whole length of my hand is the ribbing as it's knit. I purled a turning row where I wanted the edge to happen because the purl is a really crisp fold, and then you fold my hand doesn't quite go this way. You fold the first half of the ribbing up and you knit it together all along just before you transition to stockinette, and that makes a permanent double thick brim. I live in Manitoba. It's always cold, super windy most of the winter, and so extra thickness at the ears is more important than how heavy this is actually for most of us. Most of us are out walking, we're generating some heat, and so if this is a little thinner, that's not the big deal, but it's having the thickness here that we really care about. So I've got the double thick brim. I knit mine, here's what I did. I knit mine plain ribbing for 3.5 inches or so. Then I purled this edge. And then, with the number of stitches rows I knew I needed, I'd switch the ribbing first of all so that the knits and purls, when they were folded, rather than building up too deep, that they would sort of nestle into each other. So where there was a purl 2, I did a knit 2, and where there was a knit 2, I did a purl 2. And then just for fun, I don't know if you can see, I did 2 purl ridges just to make it kind of fancy. I should probably put in a picture here so you can see. And then I knit a big old slouchy hat. This pattern uses up a whole lot of the yarn. It's a free pattern on Ravelry by Kelly McClure. I used Fyberspates Vivacious 4-ply yarn, and the color is Verdigris. I picked this up at, I think it's Tinkus Strickparadies. It's in Dortmund in Germany. I picked up a couple skeins, and I'm thinking this is actually my first completed Christmas gift. This is the kind of thing my family is constantly stealing from each other, and so I feel it, and then losing. So I need to keep a constant supply of winter hats coming into the family. I'm a really loose knitter, so I did my brim on 2.25 millimeter needles and the body on 2.5 millimeter, and I also like my hats fairly windproof. So when I say I went down a couple needle sizes, part of it's because I'm a loose knitter and part of it's because I didn't want this so airy that there's no point in using it when it's windy out. So that's the sock head I just did. I can't really say that the next project is finished, but I've been finishing a lot of them. Well, 5. So I'm knitting these tiny little sweaters. I coach the Brandon University women's soccer team. I'm one of the assistant coaches, and I was there the first year we started the team as an official team at the university, and I knew that if I started something that first year, I'd be starting a tradition. And so I thought long and hard, because what I decided to do was I actually knit in team colors these little sweaters as team jerseys, and then using duplicate stitch, I put BU for Brandon University on the front, and on the back I put the individual numbers for the girls. And so it's quite a lot of work. This year I've got 27 to knit because soccer teams are big, and then there's the other coaches, and one of the students at the university volunteers to be the athletic therapist. You know, they assess the concussion risk and things like that. And so I'm knitting a bunch of these every year. I'm done 5 of my 27. This is the We Sweaters pattern, and it's a free one that if you subscribe to my newsletter, you get there's one password for all the subscribers, and so once you've got the password, you just use it over and over again to get any of the free patterns I've got on my free pattern library in the website. And I designed it so that it would go really fast and so that you could go really easy. So you knit from the top down, and there's a cute little trick for how to do the sleeve bind offs in a way that means that there's actually only ever two ends to weave in. I mean, plus all the duplicate stitching, but that's my own choice, right? So the wee sweater pattern is simple. I'm knitting this out of Koigu. I can't find the ball band, and I must have really not been able to find the ball band because I don't even have it in Ravelry, and I usually like my Ravelry stash to be really thorough. So I thought, okay, that's fine. I'll just look it up. Yeah, Koigu in the KPM, the Koigu Premium Merino. That's like, they've got all sorts of initials. There's KPPM, I think, as well, but this is the KPM. They have 179 colorways just for this one base. So I didn't find yarn. Obviously, it's kind of like chair colored, but our colors are blue and gold, and this is a beautiful gold. I'm knitting mine on 2.5mm needles, which for me is pretty large and loose. I wouldn't normally knit sock weight yarn on that, but this is a heavier sock weight as well. And I'm having a great time knitting them. What else am I working on? Okay, so last March, I was driving from Florida with my husband, and that is approximately a 3,500 kilometer trip, I believe. His parents were flying back to Germany, and we were going to drive the van from Florida back to Manitoba. And we stopped in the House of Yarn in Nashville, where I got together with the amazing redhead girl from Ravelry, and we had a really great afternoon shopping. And this was a really cool set of mini skeins that my husband picked out. He saw these colors and he was like, oh, I really like those. Will you buy them and knit me something if you wanted? And I was like, oh, if I want, I could buy yarn and knit you something. And he loves colorful stuff. He really does. He gets a lot of colorful socks and colorful stuff. And so this was a mini skein set. And what I thought was really exciting for me, at least, is it was a set of non-fingering weight minis. So this is DK. This is from Frabjus Fibers. This is their Madhatter DK base, and they have a whole bunch of little mini skein sets. So there's 5 1-ounce mini skeins, which is about 28 grams. Works out to be 400 and some yards of DK weight. And so I didn't plan to knit this. I didn't plan to design it, but I was in a car for thousands of kilometers, and I had one of the things I do when I travel like that is I bring my full needle sets. I just grab my Grace's Cases set with all my needle tips and all my circular needles and everything, and I go. So I was knitting, and I basically invented the knitting stitch. I know I can't be the first person to knit this. It's kind of a modified waffle, but I wanted something that was simple and that I could knit and just run out of yarn. It's a 6-row repeat, and on rows 2, 4, and 6, you can change color without it showing purl bumps. So I finished this in March, and then I asked my newsletter subscribers, like, what would you like me to knit to match it? A hat or mittens? And you know what you guys said? You guys said we want both. Yeah, so done the hat. The cowl was done just big color blocks, but the hat, I wanted to do smaller bits because I wanted to have every color on here. It's a little bit slouchy, and 2 of the colors repeat on this. This is the medium size, so it goes black, kind of a light purple, then this beautiful vibrant, I don't know, I'm gonna call that teal, then purple, then green, and then the black and the lighter purple repeat again. And so that is something I've just finished, and now I'm gonna be working on the mittens next. So that'll be something I've gotta work on. What I want is, this used a full mini skein set, and now I want this plus the mittens, at least in the medium size, to be something that you can work out of one set. So I'm trying to figure out, because I use the colors unevenly, how that color distribution is going to work on the mittens. I'll figure it out. Or I won't, right? or I won't. I just won't. And I'll figure out what I'll do then. It'll be a surprise, hooray. And then what I'm gonna knit next is probably this pretty amazing skein of sock yarn. This is Dye For You. Allie is a local to me dyer. She works out of Winnipeg and has just this super adorable, I hope you guys can see that. Can't tell from the camera here. Super adorable sheep with socks logo here. This yarn or colorway is called Sherlock's London, and I'm gonna be making socks. I'm traveling to Vancouver next week, and I love having a sock project on the go because when I travel, I really enjoy having at least one stockinette project. It soothes my brain in a way that's almost medicinal, and I also know I can do it at any point and never have to worry about looking up a pattern or wondering where I'm at and that sort of thing. I'm trying to knit 7 pairs of socks for my husband before our next anniversary in May. He only wears hand knit socks, and I've kind of been neglecting his sock drawer, and so in the last year he's worn out a lot of the socks that I made him when I did sort of the big initial I love you, here's some socks, I love that you love my knitting. And so I think in the past 4 months we've thrown out something like 10 to 14 pairs of socks. Yeah, 10 to 14 pairs, but he's just worn them. He wears them with holes in them, he wears them to pieces, and that's how bad it had gotten. So it's time to knit another pair. This is Sherlock's London from Dye For You, and it's 80% merino, 20% nylon. I really prefer 80-20 over 75-25. I find that is a thinner base, and well, I've mentioned it. We live in Manitoba and we need warmer socks. The kittens are starting to get playful, so I guess I'll wrap it up for now. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a great week. Oh gosh.